This is Dan, and we're back for another episode of the Full Force MMA podcast. I'm joined by my co-host Nathan, and the guest this evening is Armand Herczeg, who's fighting in just over 10 days' time, or 11 days' time, on the Newcastle card. We had Jake McHugh on the other night. Will it be repeat or revenge? Everyone's asking. It could steal the show. How do you feel about it going heading into the last few days of camp?
I'm very happy. I've been flat out training a lot. I've been training away from home as well as the odd time I've been home, but a lot of my training camp has been away from home as well. So just with all that included, like being away from home and all, it's just been able to make me focus on the one thing, So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to closing the chapter and finishing Jake off nicely.
Absolutely. You've made your Oktagon debut before against Herczeg, who's got a bit of a reputation, and he's meant to be like one of their best up-and-coming prospects. So you felt an Oktagon event before. So is your mindset similar in that respect going into it, because you felt it, you've done it on the big stage already, so to speak, haven't you?
Well, I've been fighting on big enough stages in the Irish scene when I was amateur as well. I fought in like Ulster Hall, which is a big arena where Clan Wars was on, as well as I fought on Chaos, which was in the Millennium Forum, which obviously compared to Oktagon with the 8,000, 9,000, 10,000 people, it's nothing really, but it's still experience, and I gained a lot of that experience. So it's something that I'm used to. It's actually one thing that I realised was there wasn't much of a difference between the preparation backstage and going into the fight and the way it happens with all the runners and everything. It's completely the same as the amateur scene. There isn't anything really new. So I was happy enough with that. Now, going in with the fight with Herczeg, it was one of them things where I took it on short notice. So I should have maybe been more patient with my debut. Maybe this could have been the actual debut or whatever else, or something down the line. But I took a risk against him, and it came up short. It is what it is, split decision. Some people said I won, he won, whatever. I personally think I lost the fight. I don't think I performed well enough to win it. So I'm able to move on from it. But coming out on a show like Oktagon, it's great experience, and it's something that I've always wanted to do as even a child. When I was very young, I seen the UFC with Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz fighting, and that's where I made the decision that I wanted to be an MMA fighter. And just actually the little kid in me, whenever I was walking out and all, was there like, holy shit, we're actually doing this like for real this time. So it was a great experience and all, so I was happy with it. As to say that Herczeg's like one of their big prospects and all coming up, he's a fighter who's going to pick and choose his fights. You won't see him fighting a grappler for a long time. A lot of his fights are going to be all strikers, and unlucky enough for me, I just wasn't prepared enough to beat him. He's actually very beatable, and at one stage I love to run it back against him if he'll want to run it back, which I know he won't. He's long gone in the wind. He's not going to ask for a rematch. I've called him out multiple times, and he won't even react to it or nothing, because he knows that he got a lucky one against me,
Absolutely. He fought Callum Parker, didn't he, recently, of Top Team, and Callum won the second round. I think he should have won another round. He had him down twice. He took him down twice, and that's where Callum was in control of the fight. Like you said, if he's being out wrestled, that's where he's very, very beatable.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on. Nathan, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, and thank you, Armand, for joining us. I mean, talk us through that fight week in Prague, because it was sort of almost like an away game. You're fighting one of their biggest prospects in their hometown or in the home country. I mean, what was that whole week like?
Yeah, I was fighting one of their biggest dickheads anyway. That's what we call him. But, yeah, it was a great experience. I think because I just came off the show from Slovakia as well, I was kind of used to being away, and being from Hungary, it's kind of like fighting from a home away from home, because all countries are very similar to the area and all. So it doesn't really feel like an away day. I have fought in Prague before. I fought at the IMAF World Cup for Hungary. I represented them and ended up losing there as well. So I don't think I'll ever fight in Prague again, because that's 2 losses coming out there. Yeah, it was a great experience, and like I'm used to being away. Like because I'm from Dundalk, we're a small enough town. We never actually have any like shows on in Dundalk, so I'd always have to travel to Belfast or Dublin or even further around the world or around Ireland and Derry. Fought in Hastings and kickboxing as well, so I'm always used to the traveling, and I've got used to that as well. So it's something that like doesn't really like defer me or anything, it's not too bad, and I'm pretty used to it, so it's not a big problem for me. I'm happy enough with actually going over. I prefer being away from home anyway, because that way, like, I don't have my dad or my mom talking to me about, oh, I hope you punch his head and knock him out from, you know, just little like bits of that, or like, yeah, because my dad always watched all the fights and all my fighters and all, and then he'll try and give me tips and all, and don't get me wrong, I like listening to it as well, but I'm looking at him like, mate, you don't watch me train, you don't see what I'm doing, so like, please leave me alone.
And is it, do you think having that sort of a lot of different experiences in your career, that's going to actually benefit you, having sort of an experienced amateur career, albeit being young in the pro game?
Definitely, I think it will. It does benefit me up to an aspect, but at the end of the day, like, when I'm going in there, like, all that experience goes out the window the minute someone hits me a right hand. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter how experienced you are. If someone clocks you well enough, you're gonna just be like, what am I actually doing here, lads? You know what I mean? You have to switch back on very quickly, and it's one of them things where whenever I'm in fighting Jake, if the two of us go head to head, like, he's maybe 7 MMA fights into his career. I think this would be like my 20th or something like that. But when you look at that, oh, I'm so much more experienced. But he fought that Klivitz fella, and that Klivitz fella had like over 100 sample fights, and he didn't look great against. He looked all right against him in the first round, then gassed himself. Whenever you're fighting someone who's that experienced, they should know how to use their gas tank, and I think that's the biggest thing. What professional is. It's these lads like the Usmans, Kobe Covingtons, Nate Diaz's, all these other lads. They all use their gas tanks correctly. Tony Ferguson back in the day. They knew what techniques to use, which were low energy but very high success rates. And I think that's what you need for professional. You can have, like, everyone can be on the same level of gas tank, but if you can't use your energy levels correctly, if you're trying to dunk someone constantly, it's going to gas you no matter who you are.
Absolutely. You say that experience with fighting. So I'm sure you've been asked this a lot, and since a bit of time has passed, I'll ask it again. The challenge series, what was the best experiences that you took from that, and what did you learn from it as a whole? Now you've got time to sit back and look at the whole experience.
The biggest lesson I learned from it is that, that's actually a good question. Let me think on that for a second. The biggest lesson I learned from it is that, like, I'm meant to be doing this sport. You know, it's something that I'm definitely meant to be doing. Like, it was just a right moment, right opportunity type of thing, and I took it, and I was happy enough with how I done. And the best thing about it is, I think the whole experience was amazing, but how close myself and the whole team Ireland has gotten. You know, like, myself, Matt, Dennis, Aaron, Shem, we're always talking, and if, like, Paddy and me already have a good relationship. Obviously, Paddy's an older fella; he's a proper coach and all, so he's not going to be having as much banter and all. But you see him at shows and all, and you can have a great conversation with him, and he'll always have time for me. I always have time for him. But it's one of them things where I'd never thought that me and Dennis would have got along so well. I knew Aaron from local shows before. We fought in the same cards and all, and we got along very well. So going into the house, I knew I'd get along with him. We ended up being roommates as well, which was handy enough. And then Matt, I didn't really know. I knew of Matt, and I knew of his team and how good they were and everything like that. But just getting to actually know everyone personally and how much we actually, like, click together. We all have similar personalities, and we're all just mad cunts. So it was great.
What was your best moment from the whole series? If you had to pick one standout moment?
Okay, well, if I had to pick one moment, it would definitely be the finish, obviously, against Jake. But there was a time when we were annoying Hassan, and we were, like, petting him with water balloons. But we got, like, these little pistol caps, and we tried to light them on fire and make them pop and all. But you seen in the episode, the boys jumped out the window and came back in the door.
Yeah.
Right at that moment, Hassan's there talking shit about me because I went out the window and looked out at them, right? And he's like, "Oh, I seen Armand talking, like, looking out the window and all." So I knew something was going on. And I goes, "Oh, yeah." And I grabbed the water balloon and cracked him straight in the head with it. It was the best shot I've ever landed in my life. Showed it in, like, the very last episode, but that whole thing, I promise you, now went on for about 2 hours. Got to the point where I got some towels, soaked them, and just started walking around, belting it all over the house. Started, like, swearing up to the cameraman and everything. We had to run out the room, like, "Hassan, bro, what are you doing, man?" You know, just swearing up to the cameraman. Though I wouldn't mind. The cameraman wasn't feared at all. He was just like, "Mate, if you touch me, you're fucked here, bro. Like, you're done."
Yeah.
It was funny.
Nice.
Yeah, was there any lessons from that show that almost changed your approach to fighting or changed you as a fighter?
Kinda, in a sense, like when I was fighting amateur, I didn't really talk as much as I do now. I wasn't as entertaining on that aspect of it because it's amateur, and all I cared about was getting fights, getting the experience. But I've kind of learned now as well, like you need to be calling people out. You need to make a name for yourself. If you don't do that, everyone's going to go past you.
Yeah, that's it. And then obviously you fought Jake on the show. You got the finish. What are the different circumstances now, sort of, to this fight here in Newcastle compared to fighting in that sort of reality show bubble?
The after party is going to be a lot madder. That's the difference. Nah, I'm joking. Obviously, we both have full camps. Like Jake complained about an injury. I had a lot of personal shit going on before I went on the show. I wasn't training for at least 4 months at all. Like the most training I did. I was in Hungary and I trained in a judo club and did a bit of jiu-jitsu. My dad knows a judo coach there, and I went and trained with him. He knows the fella from being in the army and all. And then I went to an MMA gym, and it was, I don't want to like shit on Hungarian MMA because I'm from there and everything, but it was the worst place I've ever trained in my life. The boys are sparring with no shin guards, 8-ounce gloves or 4-ounce gloves. Technique wise, they weren't that great. I was talking to the coach and I was telling him like my experience and all, so he's aware. And he's like, "Oh, sure, you should be teaching the class." And that's when I said, I need to go home. He's like, that's when I was like,
get me out of here.
Yeah, he's like, get me out of here. I'm training with a fella and I'm chatting away to him. And at this time, like I had a low cut, so I was bald, and he looked at me and he's like, "Oh, are you a skinhead?" And I was like, "Nah, bro." And he's like, "Oh, I used to be a skinhead back in the day, but now I'm just an ultra with like this Hungarian football team. I go into fields and start fighting people and all. That's why I'm training here and all." And I was training him and sparring with him, and he's like, "Oh, can we throw elbows and all?" And I goes, "Bro, you don't have elbow pads. I'm not even kicking you because you're not wearing shin pads. And put on gloves. Like, I'm not having a proper scrap with you. Like, do you know what I mean?" It was madness. I was actually like,
fucking mental.
To be honest, he's probably Radek's cousin. Like, do you know what I mean? The two boys must have known each other.
I love it. It's been pretty respectful between you and Jake, though, hasn't it? It's fair to say it's not. It's had a little bit of needle to it, but it's not had like Dennis Frimpong level of needle. So, do you think, in terms of fighting ability and stuff, do you think it'll steal the show next week?
Yeah, well, look, the reason why I haven't been that mad to like diss him and everything, like I think I've done enough damage to him mentally already. Like making that
By them with the win the first time.
With the first time and all, and even after that, like whenever he called me out and all, like put up a few posts and everything. But then the fight was real. You know, it was actually contracts were signed and we were fighting, and that's when I went, right, I'm not going to spend all my energy and time into texting him and annoying him and trying to get in his head. I need to train. I need to actually prepare for this fella, because this fella wants to actually kill me this time. If he actually wants to win, like he wants to actually go through me and prove a point. Because if I was Jake, I'd be looking at Armand and I'd be like, "Lad, you bet me in 34 seconds, so I have to make you suffer for 3 rounds to make it actually add up or something." Do you know what I mean? So that's the way I'm looking at it. I have to be zoned in, you know, like a horse with the little eye blockers on it, and just tunnel.
I like that. I do like that actually, because you could easily try and get in his head and sit there all night on Instagram burning his head out. So I do like that attitude. You've already been part of an Oktagon event before. I did say that. So what about now the breaking into the UK market? What's your thoughts on the prospects of them coming to Ireland, brother?
So I'd love it to come to Ireland. It'd be amazing. Now, obviously, like there's other aspects that might not allow it. You know, there's a bit of like politics and all within the Irish scene that I won't get too into. But
yeah, I'm aware of it all. I'm aware of it all.
Yeah, so hopefully they can get over. If not Dublin, then Belfast would be amazing. You know,
Belfast would be good.
Yeah, it would be class. But I'm happy enough that it's in England because it's only over the pond, and in Newcastle, there's meant to be a good nights out in Newcastle as well. So I'm happy enough with the location. You know.
Absolutely. As long as they don't take them over to Hungary, then we're all right.
I'll try not that.
It'll be turning up as bare knuckle that night. Anyway, there'll be no goals at all involved. It'll be mental. Nath?
Yeah, and I mean, we always ask fighters this question because it always feels like an important question. what are you, when you are fighting, what are you sort of looking to leave behind? I know you're very young in your career, so apart from next 5 years, are you thinking about maybe coaching and things like that, or what legacy are you looking to leave?
Yeah, like I already do coach. I love helping people anyway. Like if it means 2 minutes of helping you with something, or if it's me doing corners, like my teammate Jess Paulo, it's myself and Darren that's usually in his corner, and I love that aspect of it. I just love being involved with the sport, and I love going to shows and watching and all. I also like doing a few jiu-jitsu classes whenever I'm in Dundalk. I'll help out and do stuff like that and help the boys with certain techniques and stuff. But at the moment, like, I need to be selfish as well. You know, I'm only starting my professional career, so it's mainly about myself. If I'm not in camp, I have no problem helping people. But when I'm in camp, it's everyone has to help me. That's the only way.
And how
I
do
love
you
that.
sort of, sorry, Dan. And how do you prepare for a fight when it's like that? Without giving too much away, what do you sort of look to? Do you focus on your opponent, or do you focus on making yourself the best fighter possible?
Well, I focus on making myself the best fighter possible, and I am also aware of their style and their game plan. Like, you can look at Jake, you can look at me, and you can tell what our game plans are going to be. Your mine's to stay on the feet, his is to get me down. And then you need to kind of break it down. How can he get me down? What does he like to do? What doesn't he like to do? Where he puts himself in certain positions and everything. And you can deep dive into it, but then you kind of get obsessed with the other person. And it's a good thing and a bad thing, you know. So I'm happy enough with how the preparation has been going. I'm well aware of what I needed to do and what I've been preparing for. So we'll have to see how it goes. You know, at the end of the day, like, you can have a game plan all you want until he swings a right head kick and knocks me clean out. You know, so anything can happen.
That's it. So what can we expect next week? Anything?
I'll tell you what. A big surprise will definitely happen. I'm happy enough to say that we're gonna go out there, and if Jake is a man of his word, we can have a good fight. But it could end up being one of them things where it goes decision, it gets an early finish. As I said it earlier on, I was having another conversation, but if I do tap him again, and if I do get a submission against him again, he needs to get his brown belt taken off him. It's that simple. Because I'm only a blue belt. I shouldn't be tapping this fella, and I already got him once. So if I get him again, it has to be D-ranked.
Right, that's a statement. That's a statement. Have his belt taken. Yeah, I like that. Right. So, regardless of what happens next week, what is the plan for the rest of the year? Do you have an outline? Do you have a blueprint of what you want from 2024?
At the moment, I don't. I'm kind of looking at this as like the end of my 2023 instead of the start of my 2024.
Yeah, close that chapter, so
Yeah,
to speak.
close that over and all, and then probably like try and fight a few more of like the Czech boys instead of like the UK and Irish boys, because like there's no point in me, like, I just fought on this island and I'm gonna fight more. Like, I don't want to fight my neighbours. I'd rather fight that other side of the world and see how that goes and build up that way. And plus, like, the UK scene's a lot better, I think, than the Eastern European scene. So I think there's a lot easier fights that way. And that's as simple as, like, you know, I'm only 2 fights into my career now, and I don't mind building myself up a wee bit more experience and all before I go off and having them another prospect. Like, there's no point of 2 prospects like now fighting again. So if I fought like another 20-odd-year-old lad who's had a load of amateur fights and is really good, we're gonna have a high level scrap and all. Someone's gonna lose out on it. Whereas I can go in and fight someone who's 29, 30 years old, has had a couple of fights, but they've already built their career, and it just makes more sense for me to like take their fans, take their word, take their hype and everything, instead of 2 prospects who don't have much built yet for themselves or just ruining themselves even more.
Tell you what, I love that raw honesty. Yeah, I like that. And plus, like you said, it's not as strong as the UK and Irish scene ability wise. It's still good. Still good levels though. It's still good levels.
It is good levels, but that's because they're a little bit juicy, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, they are a bit fiery.
yeah, they're a bit juicy. So few of them are at some naughty stuff, but what can you do? Like,
Right, that's it. Nathan, anything you want to add?
No, I no, not really. I don't think you got the wardrobe memo that me and Armand have here. We've got a very similar wardrobe. I just noticed it in the background there.
yeah.
But just sort of end it off. What, I know you've sort of gone on for it. What can we expect from you specifically in this fight? What are you bringing to the fight against Jake McHugh?
I want to hospitalize him. Simple as, like, I wanna go through him as much as I can, and I wanna hurt him as much as I can, because for me this is the only opportunity I have. Like, I can't go back and get a 9 to 5 or go and work. I dropped out of school. I don't have like an arts degree or something to drop back on and be like, that's plan B, that's sorted. This is all I have, and I'm going out there to fight like this is all I have. You know, it's either go out on your shield or don't go out at all. And Jake needs to come with that mentality as well. And I don't think personally he has that type of mentality. If you've spoken with Jake yourself, like, he's very nonchalant, kind of sit back, relaxed type of thing. And it's all fun and games until you're actually in there with someone who's trying to rip your head clean off your shoulders. And that's what I'm going to be doing to him. So if he can stop that and get the fight in his favour, fair play to you, mate. Well done. But he needs to dig deep mentally for that.
Absolutely. We'll look forward to it. I'll see you next week anyway in Newcastle, Armand. It's been a pleasure for you to join us. It's been fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much, boys. I really appreciate you having me on and having the chat.